Hello, my name is Thomas, and in the Alphabet of Britishness, D is for democracy. That's according to the listeners of my podcast, who decided that a couple of years ago. So if you do have suggestions, do comment down below at any moment. But for the purposes of this video, D is for democracy, an important part of British culture, which I touched on in that podcast episode a couple of years ago in my special 4th of July episode, talking about the British influence on American democracy and the formation of that. And of course, O is for Oliver Cromwell. So I've got some long episodes, but I thought for this video I'd talk about the actual practice of British democracy. I'm sitting in front of Bingley Town Hall. That's the lowest level of government in the UK. Of course, it's local government, so how it is in your area, if you're in the UK, will vary enormously. Town council is all about working with local community groups, making sure that little voluntary organisations, litter pickers for example, or allotment organisations, making sure that they're coordinated and doing well. From my experience, the councillors who are unpaid, by the way, fall into two broad categories. Some are people who've done okay in life, they've worked hard, got the reward, and now they want to give back to their community. And there are others who are still struggling with all the things that we all struggle with, work and family, but they're determined to put their effort into their local community to make it a better place. They're all about improving their local community, but there's not a huge amount of power and influence, maybe influence, but for example, if someone puts in a planning application, they can advise the city, the metropolitan local government. They don't make the decision, but they can advise. That takes us along to the next place. So for me, that's Bradford City Council. The city councillors have a larger job and a job that oversees a lot of policy and decision making. They can influence the local education authority. They can influence, say, local policing issues. They have decision making powers, including, again, local planning. So if you want to build a new building in a place that has zonings, then that's very important for city council. And then of course you have the highest bit, the one that everyone follows in the newspapers, the national government, held at the Palace of Westminster, the Houses of Parliament. That is of course a separate thing, which is the national politics that, I say, lots of people who are disinterested would follow that, and perhaps following just the top 10%, 5% of politicians. There's 650 members of the House of Parliament, each representing a very small constituency, not broken up entirely evenly. It's largely broken up by population centres. There's some very large rural constituencies with relatively small population centres, and of course there's some areas of the UK that do get overrepresented in terms of the numbers of people to a member of Parliament. So those are three main branches of government. At the lowest level, town council, which is behind me, then the city council, and then the national government. In some ways it does tie into actually the Anglo-Saxon roots of our democracy, but again I talked about that in the longer episode. And perhaps one last thing to say about our politics: it's exceptionally accessible. You can meet frontline politicians. A friend of mine met the Prime Minister very recently because he's involved with various charities, and I met the previous Prime Minister. I've met some front bench politicians, and it's exceptionally accessible, and I think that's very, very important. It is, of course, democracy is democratus, power of the people, so it's important that it remains that way.